Feeds and feeding. Feeding is one of the most important aspects of a healthy catfish production. The quantity and quality of feed that your catfish consumes will show how big and healthy it will get. This lesson on feed is just a brief to get you running a successful fish growing system. A more elaborate course on feed is one of our main courses here, having series of lessons and topics. This has to do with persons who wish to know more about feeds and how to set up producing feed for their farms and for other farmers to buy. Catfish feed. There are various types of catfish feed. The type being used at any particular time is a function of the size of fish being fed and whether the fish are feeding at the surface or at the bottom of the water. Feed types can either be floating or sinking feed. And let's talk about floating feed first. This type of feed, as the name implies, floats on the surface of the water, allowing the fish to pick the feed at the surface. The farmer can easily determine when the fish are full or satisfied by viewing the quantity of feed remaining on the water surface uneaten. Sinking feed. As the name connotes, the feed sinks and the fish pick the feed as they go down into the water or simply feed at the bottom. The person feeding must be very vigilant to the movement and activities of the fish while feeding them to judge when they are full or satisfied. Feed sizes in current market. There are different stages in catfish growth, and each stage requires the appropriate size of feed for good production output. These feed sizes are usually denoted in mm. Some of the current sizes company produce are 1.5 mm, 1.8 mm, 2 mm, 3 mm, 4 mm, 6 mm, 8 mm, 9 mm, and 10 mm. One important thing to note here about these feed sizes is that the higher the feed size, the lower the protein content. Smaller catfishes require feed with high protein so they can grow fast. A much bigger fish may not require so much protein, but feed that will help build body weight since the farmer sells per weight. In Nigeria of today, or for small scale farmers, and when I say small scale farmers, I mean farmers who produce less than 10,000 tons of fish per year. One can go into the production of fish feed for one stock at some points, but for feeding smaller fishes, it is advisable to go buy from recognized producers. These recognized feed producers in the country have the man and machine power to produce quality feed for small catfish. Now that we have talked about feed sizes and make you understand farmers use floating feed and also sinking pellets or sinking feed, It is therefore appropriate to talk about when to switch feed. Switching feed between floating and sinking pellets. Many farmers feed with feeds produced by any of the recognized companies in the country for about 2 months, then switch into milling up the production of their own local feed to feed till harvest. Some farmers with enough capital buy from these companies throughout for growing their fishes. One thing you should realize is that the better the ingredients of fish feed, the better the chances of getting good production. In trying to save costs by producing your own feed, ensure to buy quality feed ingredients and also get the right formula for each stages of your fish growth. Otherwise, trying to save costs may end up costing you more when your production ends in disappointment. Catfish fries in hatcheries are fed with finely ground meal or flour type feed containing 45 to 50% protein. Larger fingerlings should be fed small floating pellets containing about 35% protein content. Advanced fingerlings of about 5 to 6 inches are gradually fed a floating feed like 1.5 to 1.8 mm of approximately 3/16 inches in diameter, containing 28 to 32% protein. Some producers switch to a slow sinking feed as the fish grow bigger, while some maintain the floating feed throughout the fish life cycle. Antibiotics are administered to catfish through incorporation in feeds. Depending on the particular antibiotic chosen, the feed may either be floating or sinking. Feeding methods. Despite considerable research, feeding catfish is far from an exact science. It is a highly subjective process that differs among catfish producers. The variation in feeding practices is a product of numerous factors such as fish size, ability to manage water quality, and experience of the person feeding. Feed spreading method. You can either broadcast your feed or spot your feed. Broadcasting feed. This is a technique of scattering feed over as wide an area as possible to provide equal feeding opportunities for as many fish as possible. Farmers using floating feed can easily do this and monitor consumption level. Spotting feed. This is the concentration of the feed to a particular spot to monitor the activities of the fish and assess the volume or number of fish eaten. Sinking pellets are usually spotted. However, the method may cause uneven growth rates as some small fish are scared off the feeding point, a survival of the fittest scenario. Quantity and time. Many farmers feed fish once a day. They are fed as much as they can consume without adversely affecting water quality. Some other farmers feed twice a day all through. Ensure you are consistent with timing. If your feeding is around 8 a.m., maintain that period. Do not feed 8 a.m. today and then 12 noon tomorrow. Choose a constant period, and at that time your fish should be expecting their feed. Some persons are of the theory to give catfish 2.5% of their body weight in feed. Of course, you cannot weigh all of them, but you can estimate this. For instance, if you have about 50 mature catfish and you are able to weigh a few weighing about 900 grams to 1.2 kg, you can assume they are all about 1 kg. So if you take the average as 1 kg, then the total weight is 50 kg. 2.5% of 50 kg is 5 kg of feed per day. Firstly, you will then have to monitor to see if there is excess feed floating or settling at the bottom of your tank or pond, which shows you are giving them too much. Secondly, if you are not giving them enough, then they may be very eager to eat more when you feed next. If either of these things happen, you will need to adjust your feed a little until you have a perfect balance. In more practical sense, the above calculation may not work, so it is advisable to feed your fish to satisfaction without overfeeding the pond or underfeeding the pond. Stages of catfish growth and the right feed size. As explained earlier, there are different sizes of fish feed, whether sinking feed or floating pellets. Although sinking pellets are usually bigger and longer than floating feed. The bigger your fishes get, the bigger the feed sizes they can pick. However, you should be aware that it will be unwise for you to give the wrong size to your fish simply because they can pick it. For instance, giving a 2-month-old fish feed size of 9 mm, very wrong. For fingerlings, for about 3 to 4 grams, that's 3 weeks old, we recommend 1.5 mm feed. Post fingerlings, about 4 to 5 grams in weight, at 4 weeks old, we recommend 1.8 mm feed size. Juveniles, 6 to 10 grams, at about 5 weeks old, 2 mm feed size. Post juveniles, 10 to 50 grams in weight at about 6 weeks old. We recommend 2 mm feed size also. Jumbos, 50 to 150 grams at 7 weeks old. We recommend 3 mm feed size. Post jumbos or medium or smoking size fish of about 150 to 400 grams at 2 months old, we recommend 4 mm feed size. Table size or barbecue size of about 500 to 800 grams. At about 3 to 4 months old, we recommend 6 mm feed size. And table size at about 5 months and above old, we recommend 6 mm to 9 mm to 10 mm as the case may be. However, these feed sizes can apply to someone who uses purchased floating feed throughout. If you are switching to sinking feed at month 2, then go along with the following. For the size of about 200 to 300 grams in weight, you give 2 mm sinking feed size. For 300 to 600 grams in weight, we recommend 4 mm feed size. For 600 grams to 1 kg and above, we recommend 6 mm to 9 mm to 10 mm size. There are supplements given to fish to eat in place of the bagged pelletized feed from the feed mill. Catfish are carnivorous in nature and can practically eat almost any fleshy thing you throw at them. Maggots, earthworms, poultry waste, guts from other fishes or birds, insects, catfish eating tilapia young ones, and catfish eating catfish. These are few things farmers research into feeding catfish in order to cut costs of buying pelletized feed. Feed supplements are a direct source of protein and they help catfish to grow bigger and faster. They are cheaper to get than paying for expensive pelletized feeds. However, while you can depend on pelletized feeds alone in your fishery business, you cannot depend on feed supplements alone. As the name implies, they are supplements you get your fish once in a while. Using feed supplements also exposes your pond to the risk of infection. The oil and other things from these animals or animal guts pollute pond quicker, thereby exposing your fish to troubles. You need to ensure good water management system if you must run these feed supplements. Your water must be fresh at all times and also only give them the quantity they can finish at once. And so in conclusion, good quality and enough feed is required to achieve good results in fish farming. As a matter of fact, feeding takes about 80 to 90% of the investment of catfish farming business. Farmers who heavily feed their fish are most likely to make good profits on their investment. Farmers who think they can gather stuff from here and there, managing to giving their fish less quality feed, will not get the desired result. The slogan in fish farming is that before you stock your fish, you stock your feed, whether self-produced or purchased from recognized companies. Your feed must be ready when your fish need them. We have come to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.